It's time for IP in the news, and we just have another lawsuit today where there was a big jury verdict.
But
So
there was a jury verdict. So I don't think that people realize all the time that intellectual property issues like patent infringement, trademark infringement can actually go before a jury of people like a criminal case can.
right, and it's kind of interesting because patents are so complex and convoluted, and if you haven't read a patent, you probably don't really understand the point I'm trying to make here. But it is complicated stuff, and for a jury to be able to understand it and then render a verdict is a pretty amazing thing. In this case, who was it? AT&T and Finesse. They got into a dispute about some satellite uh, technology for radio towers, and so it's all very technical. But it is important to appreciate that these cases do go to court, and patents play an important role in safeguarding technology. So,
If you have an important invention and somebody else infringes on it, you can recover damages.
absolutely. So, now it's time for our Richard's Roundtable, and I'm going to ask each of our distinguished guests their opinion, or if you have a question about intellectual property, we're happy to field that. So, uh, Karen, welcome to the show. So good to see you. What are your thoughts about this lawsuit?
Thanks. Well, it definitely reminds me the importance of protecting yourself and doing everything that you can to do that. And as a newer entrepreneur just launching during COVID, my eyes have been opened much more than normal. I would say in my past about the importance of that. And so I first of all think, wow, okay, what are all the things that we as entrepreneurs need to do to take care of ourselves, let alone these huge organizations, companies and such. So I think it's important. That's what I'll
I
say.
yeah, I appreciate what you're saying and how you tie that into entrepreneurship and starting a new business. There are lots of things that an entrepreneur can do in order to protect their investment. So you can protect your investment in your brand through trademarks, creative works, through copyrights. Those are relatively inexpensive, and they're opportunities for you to protect the the newness or the novelty or the uniqueness of your business. You may not be inventing a tech product, so maybe patents are not the right solution for you, but there are other opportunities to protect the intellectual capital. So, Kenya,
Yeah, well, I was going to say real briefly here that the power of making sure that all of the time that you spend on your work and then it could be gone in a flash, or you have to spend a ton of money to get it back. To me, that's the thing we want to avoid. So that's, as you were talking, I was thinking, yeah, all the time that I've spent on these things, I don't want it to get not taken away.
yeah, and I have to emphasize it's important to check, especially in the world of trademarks. If you're
Yeah.
selecting a name for a business, you may pick a name, you may find a URL that's available, you may even be able to register the LLC at the state level, but somebody can have a federal trademark that is a problem for you. And so you want to know that before you invest a lot of money into your branding, your advertising, if packaging, if you're packaging things, you don't want somebody to come out of the woodwork 2 or 3 years down the road after you've put all of that effort into creating your product. So it's really important to check with an attorney before you get too far down the road and make sure that the path is uh, is clear. So
Right. We went through that. We named this show something else in the beginning. Kenya had a really great name and it was trademarked. So we had to change the
we
name of
had
the
to
show.
change the name, but I'm glad we did.
We
So
checked before we got going, right?
Kenya, what are your thoughts on this lawsuit and intellectual property in general? Maybe.
Well, you kind of answered my question. And because we're edutainment, right? I wanted you to give the audience some examples of what like intellectual capital is. And then how can like the little guy or like the little entrepreneur feel empowered if they find themselves in a situation like this?
Well, I think, there's no guarantees with intellectual property. They're a business tool that you can use to help defend yourself. It does take resources, at least some minimal level of resources to challenge somebody else. The value of, for example, a trademark registration, though, is hopefully that you register your trademark and somebody else comes along after you and they also check, right? And they say, okay, well, I'm not going to take that trademark because somebody else already has it. And that's what we tell our clients. We check, we do a search. Somebody else has the same mark, then we'll steer them away from it. And so it protects you without you ever actually having to fight with somebody. And so I think that's a really important point. It's worth registering it, even if you don't think you're ever going to have willing to spend the money to get involved in a lawsuit.
But sometimes even just a cease and desist letter will be enough,
Right.
right? To
Absolutely.
make the other person stop using your branding.
Absolutely. So Morgan, what are your thoughts on all of this?
So I don't know if you guys know this, but intellectual property is actually a big part of my life. I'm in multiple different ways, just with Bourbon with Heart, when it comes to art, owning art, even images of your art, is, a big deal. I mean, I could have an artist paint something, but and then someone can even buy that, but they don't then own the rights to that image necessarily, or to resell that image or to use it commercially. So there's a lot there. But beyond that, and I'll be very careful what all I say about this, but I'm in the middle of, been for a couple of years, almost a couple of years, quite a large intellectual property situation. I am a commercial real estate agent, and I'm selling Claudia Sanders' Dinner House, which is the wife of Colonel Sanders. And I'm selling his home and of 25 years and his business. And so, as you can imagine, we've had to discuss that with KFC quite a bit.
Interesting.
Oh, I bet.
I
Yeah.
can imagine. Yeah, because
Yeah.
I mean, part of the value of the house is the legacy, but
Oh, the name, Claudia
and the
Sanders.
name, right?
And it's a chicken restaurant.
Right. So, Suki?
Sounds like fun though.
It's a lot. It's a lot of fun, but some people, people tread very lightly around KFC, who's owned by Yum, which is a very large company.
You never got the recipe for the 11 herbs and spices, did you? Was that part of the deal?
That's a whole nother one. Yes, and that lawsuit was settled, and I can't say much else about that.
Oh wow! So you're a real insider.
Oh, we're
Siki,
deep into it. Yeah.
Siki, what are your thoughts on all this stuff?
My thoughts on all this is that it is the perfect timing for me, especially in the midst of branding, and this is all very new to me. I don't have a lot of knowledge of it, but I'm definitely open and excited about this, and I will definitely need you guys in the near future.
Oh,
well,
excellent.
yeah.
I think we need you too.
I'm glad we have your email. So.
Oh, thanks. It's all in the timing, right?
Great.
Right, exactly.
Absolutely. So, so that was amazing. I guess the takeaway from this is if you're starting a new business, you want to make sure that you pay attention to the intellectual property piece at some appropriate point, and it can help you protect your business, protect your ideas, and so that's part of the reason why we're doing the show is really to get the word out there on these topics.